I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and part 2 of the epic dogfight EVO 4G LTE HTC One X continues right now. Part 2 of this video, we're going to talk about a bunch of different things, including some of the call applications, things like that. But before we jump into that, some love to Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with phones like the 4G LTE and like the One X for use in our One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile to buy both of these devices, maybe you're a big roller like that and you're going to buy both or you're just going to buy one. That's still pretty cool. You're going to walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, your contacts, your widgets, your settings, and more. So when you walk out that door, you're good to go. And you're walking out working at Best Buy Mobile. So let's take a look at both of these devices and really kind of drill down on what's different. Obviously, looks very similar on this front. You know, you have your contacts, your phone application, all look very similar. The real differences are in hardware on the EVO 4G LTE. Bigger battery over here, 2,000 milliamp hours, 1,800. A kickstand over here, and then over on the top, you've got a little bit more of an industrial design. Over here, polycarbonate. 1,800 milliamp hour battery. Both have 4G LTE, but this one has a physical camera button, so that's something to keep in mind. But you can see the phone application here, and you'll notice this is something I actually don't care for about Sense, or don't care for. But you actually just said that, don't care for on Sense. You can see that the recent calls or dial calls, things like that, appear with the contact. So I can get rid of the numeric pad here, and you can see I've got one contact and I have some recent calls. It gets really clustered and kind of confusing when you have a bunch of missed calls, a bunch of recent calls, and then you're also trying to search between that and then trying to find your contacts and your recent calls. It's just very frustrating. And then you can scroll over to call history and easily see your call history stuff here. But then scrolling back, and you can see how quick the transitions are, and I like that little carousel type transition there. Very, very nice and clean, and you got a little bit of a different dial pad. Let's dial 611 just so you can see. Actually, that's not a good number to dial. Let's dial 555-1234 just for the heck of it, so you can see what it looks like. Sprint network ID, Android Buddy, mute, and then a speakerphone, and then of course your settings, in call, and more. Over here, same setup over on this side. 611 loads you right up, although you see the AT&T network identifier, but same look and feel over here. So obviously you can tell between the two, not a whole lot of change, including the camera application. Now, both of these devices have image sense technology. They're both 8 megapixel cameras with 1080p HD video recording capabilities, and we can load up here. For example, we'll go into take a look at this unlocked Galaxy Note that I happen to have laying on my desk, and we'll come in here and take a picture of these, for example. It's an absolutely fantastic camera, but where the EVO 4G LTE comes ahead of the One X, in my opinion, the physical camera button. It makes it much easier to hold the device, much easier to zoom in and focus on the picture, and much easier to actually snap the picture, or if you're taking a bunch of pictures, snap a succession of pictures. It just makes it incredibly easy. So you can see, actually I'll take one of the window here so you can take a look at it. And you can see the window, you can see my image, my silhouette there in front of the window, and then you can see a couple of different options. I can scroll through, find the best shot thanks to burst mode. You can do the same thing over here, and actually the sound is turned off, so let's turn this off so you can play with it. I can do the same feature over here. Really useful if you're watching a soccer game, a basketball game, you want to take some quick pictures, you can do that, and likewise you can get rid of them all if you want to. So both phones have the capabilities. The EVO 4G LTE gets a slight nod just because of having the physical camera button. It's something every manufacturer should have on every one of their phones as far as I'm concerned. Gallery here, and you can see this nice picture. Beautiful camera on both. This camera is the first camera I've ever used on any other device that rivals the iPhone 4S camera. Just fantastic. There needs to be a built-in feature that allows for resizing of pictures actually in the application, but hey, I'm not complaining. Beautiful image here. Looks really nice. You can see these elevators in this picture. And looks clean. All in all, a very nice image. Let's take a look at quadrant standard on both of these devices and see which one comes ahead, because they're running basically the exact same specs. So let's see which one comes out on top. And we'll load up quadrant standard. And we'll do quadrant standard over here. It looks like I may have uninstalled it. So we'll load up quadrant standard over here on the HTC One X as well. Run full benchmark. Yes, yes, and yes. We'll talk about call quality as well. So obviously call quality has been great on both of these devices. Sprint does a good job with call quality. This is going to be the first device on Sprint to support HD voice quality coming soon this year on Sprint. So that'll be a nice feature. Works well on the AT&T One X as well. Battery life has been pretty decent on both devices. It does get the nod over here for two reasons. One, this one's obviously on 3G and 3G only right now, but even on 4G, a bigger battery over here. 2,000 milliamp hours on the EVO 4G LTE as opposed to 1,800 milliamp hours over here. So much better, I wouldn't say much, but a bigger battery on the 4G LTE makes it able to make it through the day without requiring a recharge. I can get to about 6 or 7 usually here with my usage before this requires a recharge. So something to keep in mind. Otherwise, speakerphone, relatively decent on both. And like I've said about the design, I think it's really going to depend on which one you prefer more in your daily use. I like the EVO 4G LTE design a little bit more, but then again, I tend to err on this industrial side. This one looks a little bit toy-like to me, but I love the polycarbonate shell. I think if you had the, and obviously this comes in 2 colors, white and gray. I have a gray unlocked One X, the global version. I've been relatively pleased with it. So let's see who won. 4,663, 4,941. One X takes the cake on the quadrant standard score. So, you know, both of these are really good devices. You're going to be happy with both, and there are obviously a lot of similarities across the board. We'll look at you know, applications, for example. You can see the similarities. Don't need AT&T address book. We're going to decline that. Obviously, you know, a lot of similarities across the board between these two devices. You know, and you're going to be really happy with whichever one you decide to go with. That said, I think it's going to depend on a lot of things. Which carrier you're on already. You know, if you're coming from Verizon though, and you're like, both of these devices are hot, it's going to depend on which carrier works better in your area. If you're okay with 3G until 4G comes to your market on Sprint, if you're okay with AT&T service in your respective area, which design you prefer, and more. So the winner of the dogfight obviously goes to the EVO 4G LTE for a couple of reasons. One, it's basically a One X, but it's supercharged. It has a bigger battery, 2,000 milliamp hours over here, a physical camera button, a kickstand, and it has a micro SD card slot as well. It's kind of like the One X on steroids. Love or hate the design, it does have improvements that make it better, at least in terms of you know, a lot of way battery, kickstand, things like that, than the One X. The One X is still an awesome device. It's ranked the #1 device on both the People's Choice and the Experts charts on PhoneDog's official smartphone rankings, and it's available in 2 different colors. So pick which one you prefer. They're both awesome devices. These are both going to pose a serious challenge to other high-end devices like Sony's devices that are coming out this year, the Samsung Galaxy S3, and more. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage of both of these devices, the EVO 4G LTE and the HTC One X. In the meantime, be sure to follow me on Twitter. Let me know what you think of both of these devices. PhoneDog_Aaron on Twitter, Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog, Google+, G+.to/PhoneDog, and more. But both you're going to be happy with regardless. Still got your task manager, still got a lot of things that make these devices uniquely HTC. Have it on the One X as well. You can easily stop, look, and listen. We're going to refresh that, and then you're good to go. So both are awesome devices. Take your pick, but by a narrow margin, as always, in the dogfights, the winner is the EVO 4G LTE. Keep it locked on PhoneDog for continuing coverage of both of these devices, new dogfights, and more between these two devices. I don't really know what I'm doing with my hands, but you get the idea on PhoneDog.com. We'll see you next time.